that look familiar? That's a position I see a lot of people assume whenever someone is prophesying to them. Have you ever wondered where that came about? In my opinion, I call it the prophetic stick-up. There's nowhere in the Bible where someone delivered a prophecy to another and told them to raise their hands. Quite frankly, there's no need for it. When a person receives a prophecy and that thing comes to pass, you can assume that person is going to be raising their hand then, thanking the Lord. Now, I'm not quite sure where it came from, but raising your hands is not going to make a false prophecy come to pass. Now, while some people may tell you you're raising your hands out of reverence to the Lord, that is not necessary. I have sent messages to people. They didn't have to raise their hands. All they had to do was read the message, and those things came to pass. And I'm speaking about major things. So raising your hands is not necessary, because I've also seen people raise their hands to receive a prophecy that didn't come to pass. But there's also a potential danger. When you raise your hands, it is a sign that you're coming into agreement. If the word is actually from the Lord, that is a great thing. In Acts 16, we see a lady who had a spirit of divination. Now, if you raise your hands to, for example, someone who's a bona fide false prophet, someone who's operating with a gift that is coming from a familiar spirit, when you raise your hands, you are giving that devil consent to prophesy to you and then bring that thing to pass. And even if the prophecy doesn't come to pass, it is going to defile you. Leviticus 19:21 or 19:31, the Lord says we shouldn't regard them that have a familiar spirit. I mentioned about not consulting with wizards, lest you be defiled by them. So it is a defiling act to come into contact with a familiar spirit or someone who's prophesying with the assistance of a familiar spirit. Now with false prophecies, either it's going to keep you stuck in place or it's going to make you go to left or right when maybe the Lord wants you to go straight ahead. So for example, someone with a familiar spirit prophesies to you. You raise your hands, you come into agreement with it. But that prophecy keeps you stuck because it never comes to pass. And you keep on waiting for that thing to come to pass. Now, if they give you a time frame, you know that if they say by March 19th and it's March 20th and doesn't come to pass, then that means the Lord has not spoken. And we see how the Lord says this in Deuteronomy 18:20-22. But there are some people where they receive that false prophecy saying something's going to happen by, for example, again, March 19th. It's March 30th, but they're still waiting. It's like they refuse to give up. And they're literally in this stick-up position because their destinies have been put on hold, because they came into agreement with someone who gave them a false prophecy. The other side of that is someone tells you something. For example, they may tell you that so-and-so is supposed to be your spouse, when actually the Lord has someone else for you. But because you're so focused on one person, that even if the Lord brings that person that He has ordained for you, you're going to reject that person because someone hijacked your destiny. And literally, you're a victim to a prophetic stick-up. Now, for those people who are actually prophets, or they have the gift of prophecy, stop telling people they need to raise their hands. They don't. They don't. They could have their hands in their pockets. In 2 Kings 4, we see how Elisha, who was always being hosted by a Shunammite woman, he didn't have her raise her hands to tell her that within a year she was going to give birth to a son. In fact, she believed he was a holy man of God, but when he told her that, she was so caught off guard. It's like it was too wonderful. She was like, "Please don't lie to me." That was her response. Which brings me to another thing. Another technique that false prophets use is by telling you that you have to react a certain way. Or you may have to sow a seed to cause a prophecy to come to pass. That woman didn't need to do anything. She didn't accept the prophecy in a way that would symbolize belief that it was going to come to pass. But if the Lord said it, He's going to do it. And if He puts a time frame on it, He's going to do it in that time frame. If not, the Lord had not spoken unless there were conditions attached. So before you raise your hands to receive a prophecy, be very careful about what you're coming into agreement with, which spirit a person is, quote unquote, prophesying with. And sometimes, like I was in a Periscope session with Sam Medina, who actually wrote that book in the background, Exposing the False Prophet. And I actually posed this question to him because I said I was going to do a teaching about this. And one of the things that he said was, he doesn't raise his hands. He'll allow the person to prophesy first. Because, for example, in 1 Corinthians 14, it speaks about 2 or 3 prophesying and other judge. A lot of times, a prophet, once he gets so excited in receiving a prophecy, that you don't even pay attention to what the person is saying. And like in Habakkuk 2, it's important, for example, at times, to write things down. Keep a record of what the person says, and especially if there's a time frame associated with it. Do not let anyone hijack your destiny, and you, raising your hands, come into agreement with whichever spirit they're prophesying with. Put your hands down. God bless you.